Anyhow, let's talk about something more positive. Leverkusen, busy, really busy. Victor Boniface, by the time this show comes out, this might already be announced, in the final stages to join Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. This deal, I understand, unless you heard different, so feel free to correct me, Stefan, if you heard anything different, but I've been told it's around 60 million euros. To which I say, yeah, let's go. I don't care what his numbers are, his underlying stats. Victor Boniface is a player who has been mostly hurt during his 2 seasons at the club. When he plays, he's excellent and direct, but he also, is very wasteful in his chances. And yeah, maybe the XG shows something different. I don't care. I've watched this player plenty. I think he's spectacular at times. But if you can sell a player like that for 60 million euros, you got to do it. There is no two ways about it. It reminds me a little bit of Aston Villa when they signed Diaby for lots of money from Leverkusen and then got a big offer from Saudi and just took it, right? This is the kind of money you have to take. You're not going to get that money from anywhere else. And for that sort of money, you can find probably another 2 or 3 Victor Bonifaces, because I think they signed him from Union Saint-Gilloise for 20 million euros. So that's a 40 million euro profit on a player that maybe missed more than half of his time there. And then it comes all the off-field stuff too, right? He had a crash with his car. He filmed himself racing his sports car while playing on his phone at the same time on the Autobahn. There's all sorts of off-field activities going on. So if you can take all of that, bundle it up, and get 60 million euros for it, I don't even know why we're debating this, Stefan. I think this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, there's an interesting disconnect between, people who watch the Bundesliga and people who just kind of look at the stats and think, well, he's a young player, he scored goals for fun in Belgium, you see his stats for Leverkusen, he scored goals for fun in Leverkusen, surely he's destined for the Premier League. But unfortunately, the reality of the situation is a little different. First and foremost, he has been injured a lot. He picked up a huge amount of injuries in Belgium. In fact, the only reason I think Leverkusen were able to even sign him is because of those injuries. If he hadn't picked up those injuries, if there weren't concerns about his fitness, he wouldn't have moved to Leverkusen. They probably would have moved straight to the Premier League. So we have to kind of bear that in mind. And unfortunately, his time at Leverkusen hasn't really alleviated those concerns for anyone who was potentially looking to sign him. I mean, we're talking about a player here who's how old is Boniface? Like 21 maybe, 22? 24, sorry. And he's already had 2 ligament tears in his career. So we're talking about a player there who's potentially going to really struggle going forward in terms of his fitness, in terms of kind of shaking off those injuries. I just wonder whether he's actually built for like top tier football. And I don't think it's a surprise that Leverkusen have probably assessed the situation and thought, yeah, we should probably cash in as soon as possible on him, because, he has done, his numbers are still solid. As you said, people who watched Leverkusen this season would say he's a shadow of his former self. People at the club have told me that, his injuries are concerned, but so are his off-the-field activities, things that distract him. And in many ways, the two have actually kind of blended together where, off the field stuff has got in the way of him being fit and being capable of playing, or playing to his very best. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense that in a weird way, like a lot of people might be a little surprised and raising eyebrows as to why Leverkusen are selling one of the star strikers at this point in the season. But you have to really bear in mind, we're talking about a player who has had a lot of heat off the pitch, maybe kind of rubbed up a few people at the club the wrong way with that behaviour. And has missed a fair amount of games since he made the move to Leverkusen. So, to an extent, he's not really reliable. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense that if Saudi want to come in and spend a lot of money on him, then fair play. And it looks as though Leverkusen are more than happy to oblige him.
No, and here's I pulled up his injury history on Transfermarkt. He had 2 crucial ligament tears when he was still in Norway for Bodo, right? Then he was fit during his entire time in Belgium. But then his first season at Leverkusen, he missed missed 90 days with an adductor injury and then a knock. 24 games in total for Bayer Leverkusen Nigeria. This season, he's already missed 64 days or 11 games and counting, right? Because he's not fit right now. I think he was going to be on the bench for the Champions League game, but only is working his way back in the squad, and we're probably never going to see him back in the squad because he might get sold beforehand. But we're halfway through the season, and he's already at 11 games this year. I have the totals for every season here. It's 34 games in 2018, 2019, 56 games missed in 2020-21, 23 games missed in 23-24, 12 games already missed 24-25. That's a lot for a player like that. And I mean, again, the stats can be as great as you want, but if there's an injury history there, and I think it's actually more the off-field stuff too. The whole car accident thing earlier this season, and then I think literally the next week or 2 weeks after, he was filmed on his phone driving on the autobahn at high speeds. That's just not that's unforgivable at this stage. And there's apparently a bunch of other things that have happened since. So I get it.